So as we get into the episode, we start with Granite. He's healing from his injuries and he's recovering. Fern and Stark would arrive by his bedside. He would then thank them for what they did for him. They saved his life from the evil demon Lugner. He would also acknowledge that Frieren is innocent and he was terribly wrong for what he did to her. He says, I've treated her wrong. She was actually one of the heroes that helped my village around the time of my grandfather. And as the anime goes into the flashback, it shows Frieren going against R the guillotine. And as she tries to stop her from going into the village, Aura would respond by using demon magic. And his evil magic would have Frieren going against an army of puppet knights, all being controlled by Aura. And as Frieren tries to fight them off, she's at a disadvantage. And suddenly the anime goes back to Granite, Fern, and Stark. Grant would start to explain how powerful Aura's magic is. He says she uses the scale of submission. This magic makes her opponent submit to her at will. He continues and says, this particular magic that she uses puts the power of her mana against any one of her opponents, and whoever's stronger will make the other submit, therefore making them their puppet. Granted expresses this power is unstoppable. Fern then says, is there any way it could be stopped? He would go along and say yes, but you have to have a strong will, and even if you do, it would only be temporary. After Granite explains the lore, the anime jumps back into the fight with Frieren and Aura. Aura's army's looking to attack Frieren, but Frieren is so skilled she's able to nullify them. They're completely stopped. Aura is surprised. She says, that's a first. Nobody has ever stopped my magic. She would then try to get under Frieren's skin and antagonize her. She says, nullifying my magic must have took a lot of mana. Why would you do something like that? Aura says, last time we fought, you just slayed my army. What's good? Frieren responds, she says, I learned from my mistake. She would imply she did something wrong, and Himmel was mad at her. Aura would continue to troll and say, well, Himmel's dead. That should be more reason for you to not care. To me in this scene, it feels like Frieren feels some type of sadness towards these knights that's been used by Aura. After Aura speaks, Frieren says, yeah, you demons are monsters. She says, I'm gonna kill you and not have no remorse. Soon after the scene, we go back to Stark, Granite, and Fern. After waiting around, Stark says, man, I'm finna go fight these demons. He turns into a hero. Fern says, chill, we only beat the last demon because we caught him off guard. Stark stands on business and says, no, we gonna go fight him. Fern would then agree with him. She says, okay, I'm coming too. He says, no, I'll go by myself. Fern would be so proud of his bravery. Fern says, so you gonna go do it, huh? Stark would then hilariously reply and say, yeah, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go beg Frieren to come help us. And after his crazy response, Fern would say, well, you right. That's the only choice we have. Soon after, they would be talking about the plan. And in the midst of them talking, Stark spots blood on Fern's jacket. He asks her, whose blood is this? Suddenly, Fern throws her jacket over the roof. He says, wait, what did you do that for? She immediately says, this is not my blood. The camera pans to Stark. And Fern's looking at the blood on him, and she finally realizes something, that it's not his blood neither. She said, is mana connected to this blood? And as soon as she says that, they're both ambushed and attacked, and it's by nobody other than the demon Lugner and his subordinate. And after Lugner unleashes his powerful magic on Fern, she's hurt very badly. He has her pinned against the wall. Stark tries to help, but he's attacked by Lenny, Lugner's subordinate, and after a couple swings by her axe, Stark says that she's using the same technique as his master, Aizen the Warrior. Soon anime goes back to Fern and Lugner the Demon, and as he has her pinned down with this attack, he starts to troll her. After yapping, Fern would say, just kill me already. He replies and says, nah, I can't do that. I need some info out of you. He would then ask, how strong is Stark? And he would say, where is Frieren at? Fern would tell him a half lie and say she fled the town to avoid execution. Lugner wouldn't buy it. He would think to himself she's too strong to flee away, and she hates demons too much. He then puts two and two together and says, I think she's after Lady Aura. And suddenly, as he says that, Fern would break loose of his magic, and as she points her weapon at him, she says, you know where Lady Frieren's at. She would also say that he lied to her about trying not to kill her earlier. She would insist that he tried to get payback from when she attacked him earlier. And crazy, Lugner doesn't really even pay her too much attention. Fern would say, and you don't respect anybody but Frieren. She would say that he's arrogant. As we move a little forward, she would aim her weapon at him and say, hey, I can blow your heart out right now. He responds and say, do it then. I bet you I'd take you out first. As he says that, Fern goes into a flashback of her and Lady Frieren. She would ask Frieren, is she of any help to her? Fern would explain, you're way powerful than me. Fearing would simply say, "That's because I'm older and I have more experience. You'll never be stronger than me." But Fearing tells her, "You can cast magic fast." And I think when Fern hears these words, she thinks to herself, "That's how I'll be useful, using my magic the best that I can and what I'm good at." And as the flashback ends, she would do just that, because out of nowhere she would attack Lugner with her magic. He would evade the attack by using his own powerful magic. And after he sees she's somewhat competent, he looks to crush her. He lets off one of his epic magic attacks, Valtteri, and it's so strong, the attack would get the attention of Lenny, his subordinate, and we would go back to the battle between Stark and Lenny. And what's crazy, Lenny's defeated Stark, but he would stand back up. He remembered the words of his master Eisen telling him warriors stand tall to the end. And as he stands up, the anime goes back to the fight between Lugner and Frieren. And after that epic all-out battle of magic, to Lugner's surprise, Fern's skills are unbelievable. And as so unbelievable, she would overwhelm him. And as this epic scene ends, Stark would show how powerful and gritty he is as a warrior too. Because after fighting off a powerful attack, he would get up again. And this time, he would go all out. He would even put his body on the line. And like the proud warrior he is, he fights off the attack. He would tell Lenny, "You're not strong enough." And soon after, he let off a powerful magic attack of his own, killing Lenny. And this attack would get Lugner's attention. And the split second he looked down, Fern would let off her demon-killing magic, Soul Tag, and she would kill Lugner as well. After the battle would be over, and that would be the end.